Classics do not get enough love on BookTube, and I am here to change that with this list. Okay? Classics are books that transcend time. They have morals and stories that were relevant in the 1700s and they're relevant today in 2019. All of the books on this list are ones that I've personally read, and I just think everyone else needs to read as well. All of them are very accessible as well. I think most of them are quite easy to read and are good for beginners to classics. There's others such as Jane Austen and Charles Dickens that I haven't read, which probably do belong on this list. However, this list is only going to talk about books that I personally have read. The Catcher in the Rye was published by JD Salinger in 1951 and follows 16-year-old Holden, who has just been expelled from boarding school. He runs away to New York City and we follow him learning how to deal with a variety of emotions. Throughout the course of the book, we learn that he's dealing with grief from the death of his younger brother 2 years prior, and he's dealing with trauma from past experiences with sexual assault. The Catcher in the Rye, in my opinion, is a must-read because it just perfectly captures that feeling of being young and not fully knowing how to deal with your emotions, kind of being lost as a teenager, not knowing how to process things fully. And I think that Holden is just a perfect example of someone who is learning as he grows and learns that it's okay to not know everything. Flowers for Algernon was written by Daniel Keyes, originally published as a short story in 1958 and later as a full novel in 1966. It is written in the form of a diary and follows our main character Charlie, who is a man living with an unstated mental disability. The diary entries start with him mostly being unable to write, he can't even spell his own name properly, and he can't really express how he feels. However, through the course of the experiment, he starts to improve his writing and eventually is writing at genius level about concepts and things that he doesn't even know that he understands. I don't want to spoil much else after this point, but I think this book is a must read because it's just a heartbreaking look at the treatment of people with mental disabilities, especially back in the 1950s, 1960s. It gives a very interesting insight into how our intelligence impacts our happiness and our satisfaction in life, and it's just all round a very eye-opening and thought-provoking book. To Kill a Mockingbird was written by Harper and published in 1960. It is narrated by 6-year-old Jean Louise Finch, whose father Atticus is a lawyer, and is set in 1930s Alabama. Atticus is trying to defend a black man, Tom Robinson, who has been falsely accused of raping a white woman. The book is such a raw, brutal look at racism and doing the right thing even when everyone else is against you. Atticus and his family come under a serious threat throughout the book by racist white southerners who just want to see Tom Robinson prosecuted and hung just because of the colour of his skin. Atticus never backs down and he defends Tom until the very end. To Kill a Mockingbird teaches lessons on compassion, courage and human dignity, which are extremely important. I have put Lolita on this list for slightly different reasons than the others, not because of the morals that it teaches but because of its writing style. Written by Vladimir Nabokov and released in 1955, it is narrated by Humbert, an older man who falls in love with 12-year-old Dolores Hayes. He kidnaps her and takes her around the United States, trying to keep their disturbing relationship a secret. It is easy to want to dismiss this book due to its subject matter, but you would be doing yourself an incredible disjustice. Lolita is one of the most beautifully written books I have ever read, and some critics call it the most important work of the 20th century. Humbert is an unreliable narrator who spends the novel trying to convince the reader that what he is doing by kidnapping Dolores isn't a bad thing, as she is just in love with him as he is with her. Nabokov's poetic and beautiful language is used as a plot point, as we are to believe that Humbert is using this language to try and persuade us that his love for Dolores is beautiful. It definitely works, and when you're reading it, Lolita, you have to stay on your toes and remind yourself this isn't a love story, it's a story about child abduction and sexual assault. Dolores' point of view is never heard, so obviously Humbert persuades her that she is in love with him. He reinvents her in his mind into Lolita and wipes away her own self-identity. The book is truly a masterpiece of the English language and one that descriptions just cannot do justice to. Jane Eyre was written by Charlotte Brontë and published in 1847. It is set in the late 1700s and follows our main character Jane from age 10 through her school years into her years working as a governess at Thornfield Hall. There she falls in love with the owner of the home, Edward Rochester, and that's all I'm going to say about this story. I love this book so much. It's my new favourite classic, and Jane is now one of my favourite fictional characters. She's strong-willed, fair, and she's truly a modern woman. Brontë really dives deep into Jane's soul and gives us such a raw look at human emotion and how we process and deal with different situations throughout our lives. Jane stands up for herself at a time when women were not expected to do so, and she refuses to see herself as being less than a man. Jane Eyre is a story about perseverance, and Jane suffers through so many devastating setbacks throughout her life. She always picks herself back up and does the best that she can. She goes through abuse, starvation, poverty and heartbreak, but manages to survive every single time. Jane Eyre is a fascinating look at the role of women in the past, and really shows us how breaking social conventions can be good for everyone, not even back then, but now as well. One of my favourite quotes in the book is when 10-year-old Jane Eyre says, "When we are struck at without reason, we must strike back very hard." Jane stands up for herself, and that's why I love her so much. The War of the Worlds is on this list as sort of a bonus book. Written by H.G. Wells and published in 1898, the shortest summary I can give of it is that it's about an alien attack on England and a man trying to survive. Although it is an amazing book, I don't think it's a must read for everyone, and the reason it's on this list is for any sci-fi fans. Wells is one of the most influential science fiction authors of all time. He was the first to write about topics such as invisibility and time travel with a scientific realism to it, and he was the first to write about alien invasions. He really is a pioneer of science fiction, and if you like modern science fiction, then you absolutely have to read some of Wells's work, and I think personally that The War of the Worlds is the perfect place to start. So those were 5 classic books that I believe for one reason or another are absolute must reads. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like, and please comment down below if you agree with my list, if you've read any of these books, and also what books you think deserve to belong on this list. Obviously I haven't read every classic world, and this list will fluctuate as I read more. Thank you so much for watching.